A humongous flight of B-29 superfortresses and B-24 Liberators fly high above a charcoaled island in the Pacific. This island would hold one of World War II's most deadly battles, but nobody knows that yet. The bombarders are instructed, and they drop their payloads on the targets, only receiving light anti-aircraft fire in return. The mission is successful, and them and their escorting P-38 Lightnings turn back for home. This bombing run comes after military victories in the Philippines against the Japanese, whittling down their army. Iwo Jima, the charcoal island that I was just talking about, is situated right between Guam and Japan, allowing for Japanese Zeros to pester formations of B-29s that are going to bomb mainland Japan. It's deemed that Iwo Jima needs to be cleared before the invasion of Okinawa, which is imminent. General Nimitz remarks, "Well, this will be easy," not knowing of the bloodshed to come from this small Japanese island. From aerial reconnaissance photos, no barracks or really any suitable housing for soldiers are seen on the island. That's because they're all in small tunnel networks connected to the dead volcano on the edge of the island that is completely underground and hidden from American planes. A massive fleet of American troops and ships, the U.S. Fifth Fleet, is assembled to go invade Iwo Jima. They have 3 divisions of Marines, totaling 70,000 soldiers, as well as Sherman tanks and amphibious vehicles to help make beach landings easier. The Japanese dispense one of their top generals to oversee the island of Iwo Jima, sending 25,000 soldiers with him. The reason for the island being so heavily defended is because it's technically a part of Japan and must be held to the very last man. When he arrives, he has one goal and one goal only: to inflict the most amount of casualties on American soldiers while they try to take the island. The U.S. Fifth Fleet encircles part of the island and begins their naval bombardment of the island to prep for the invasion. They continue to shell Iwo Jima, although they're doing very little to the troops that are hunkered down in their bunkers and trenches, as well as tunnels, although it is rumored to cause some effect on morale. The USS Nevada and USS Tennessee, recently built battleships, also joined the fray, unloading their cannons on to Iwo Jima. Battleships weren't the only thing providing covering fire. Planes, bombers, and all types of things were flying over and dropping their ordnance onto Iwo Jima in hopes of weakening the defense. Still, the U.S. doesn't believe that a large Japanese presence is on the island and believe that they can take it in just 3 days. This would turn into 6 months of bloodshed. The Marines board their amphibious vehicles and begin to drive ashore on the only beach that allows it on the entire island. Mount Suribachi is located right next to it, the most highly defended point on the island. The Marines' plan is pretty simple. One group of Marines is to cut across the island, isolating Mount Suribachi for siege. The next group is to focus on the south runway, and the last group is to focus on the quarry. All of these objectives are expected to be finished in the first day. The bombardment is relentless. Even as the amphibious vehicles get closer to the shore, the bombardment continues, if not growing stronger, in order to try to level out any remaining positions that the Japanese might have. A small group of American battleships also opened fire from northern angles in order to flatten any of the island's northern defenses. The bombardment begins to subside as planes go over and drop their ordnance onto the island. Just then, at approximately 8:59, the first Marine amphibious vehicle hits the beach. Loaded with soldiers in the back, it can also has a cannon on the front to provide covering fire. The Marines disembark, but they're not met with fire. They're met with dead silence. Nothing. Had the barrage actually killed all the Japanese island defenders? An entire company is emptied out onto the beach without any shots. But this is all a part of that Japanese general's plan. When the Americans are finally in his crossfire, he orders his soldiers to turn the guns and open fire. Out of nowhere, lead rings across the battlefield as Marines scramble for cover. The casualties are far and wide as the first wave is hit horribly bad. Just then, however, the first Shermans also begin to unload onto the beachhead. These are the United States' best chance of giving cover to Marines as they push up. The Japanese trenches and pillboxes are remarkably close to their position, and the Marines continuously open fire. Their casualties begin to rack up. On top of that, the Japanese defenders stand strong, hitting vehicles and soldiers alike as they scramble up the beachhead. Unlike with the pictures and photography that intelligence was able to gather, the beach is not flat. Instead, it has 15-foot berms preventing any vehicles from going over them. That means that the Marines will have to advance on foot without the cover of their armor, making the job tenfold more dangerous. However, there is light. Brave Marine Corps engineers plow in their small vehicles, plow a way through for the Shermans. Despite being targeted by Japanese fire, they were able to get the job done. American armor could now firmly move up the beach, and as they get up the beachhead, the Marines finally complete their first objective of encircling Mount Hirabashi. After the victory, Shermans run to reinforce the troops, trying to hold the siege strong. This will be the last mountain they conquer, but they need to isolate it from the rest of the island in order to make the rest of the island capture much easier and split the Japanese defenders in half. Amongst the Marines is Sergeant Barcelone. He received the Medal of Honor in Guadalcanal, and after being put on public tour, he's requested to come back to the war. He decides to make use of it, standing up and running towards one of the Japanese pillboxes. He throws a grenade into the pillbox, and hears a loud explosion. He then looks to his right and sees a Sherman is trying to maneuver through a minefield. Barcelone runs over and helps the Sherman move loose as it's under fire from enemy positions. Although it takes a few attempts, he gets the Sherman out of the minefield and continues his push towards the airfield with his fellow Marines. As they push up to the airfield, they're overcome by hard fire, Japanese soldiers. John Barcelone was killed in action by either a machine gun or mortar shell. Meanwhile, with the group of Marines tasked taking the quarry, they find themselves with stiff resistance, as cliffs as high as 15 feet gave the Japanese occupiers major advantages over the Marines. To make matters even worse, mortar fire began to open up on them from atop one of these 15-foot cliffs, causing high casualties for the Marines. The Marines were stopped dead in their tracks, and the attack turns into a defensive maneuver, in which they look for cover as they continued to be pummeled with mortar shells. Because of the rough terrain, Sherman tanks were unable to support them, meaning that they were all on their own, and their infantry weapons would be pinned there for the rest of the day. Iwo Jima is one of the most bloodiest battles in all of history, and to all think it happened on this little island in the middle of nowhere is absolutely absurd. In total, over 2,750 American casualties on just the first day. Almost half of the entire 6-month Guadalcanal campaign. Iwo Jima would go down as one of the bloodiest battles. And this was just the first day. I may make a part 2, part 3, or maybe even part 4. But I hope this helped you understand the Battle of Iwo Jima just a tad bit better. Anyway, I'm Max Hayes, and this is the Operations Room.